Hello and welcome to another informative half-hour journey inside Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for joining us. Coming up, cardiovascular complications of diabetes. Later, see what is in store for Reggae Month. Sit back and relax for these and more after this message.
How would you want to be treated if you were diagnosed with COVID-19? Not like this.
Them will talk how I'm wicked and if it dead and they behave like I am the one that created the virus. All my friends as well that were positive, them going through even worse than what I'm going through. Persons are calling police on them as well.
Do not allow your fear of COVID-19 to rob you of your humanity. There is no need to shun or victimize persons with the disease or those on the front line.
To mistreat persons that do have it, it's not a good feeling. We don't cause this on ourselves.
We really need to cut the hate and work together as a country, as communities to overcome.
Let us be understanding with those affected and support each other. Be kind. End the stigma.
Diabetes is one of the more common non-communicable diseases among persons in our population. If it is not properly managed, the condition can lead to other illnesses, such as heart attack and stroke. Keep watching to find out more about this condition and how you can treat, manage, and prevent this.
Diabetes is a common illness. Most of us may be aware of its various complications, such as diabetic retinopathy and neuropathy, diabetic kidney disease, and so on. But when it comes to deaths caused from diabetes, cardiovascular complications account for the majority. Diabetes is recognized as one of 4 major factors for developing cardiovascular disease, the others being hypertension, obesity, and cigarette smoking.
About 68% of persons over the age of 65, and this is data now from the American Heart Association, 65% of persons over the age of 65 who have diabetes will die from heart disease, and about another 16% will die of stroke.
Before we take a look at how to manage or even prevent cardiovascular complications of diabetes, let us look at how persons come to develop the disease.
In a nutshell, what generally happens is that diabetic persons have a more rapid rate at which fat and cholesterol is deposited in the arterial system. So we all have that. It's considered part of the process of aging. Fat and cholesterol is being laid down in our arteries. However, diabetic persons tend to have that happen at a more rapid rate. Okay? And as a result of that, what tends to happen is that diabetic persons will progress to a point where they have compromised vessels. So in other words, the lumen, the diameter of the vessel, is narrowed, the flow of blood is limited.
And as the heart muscles become starved of blood, various acids accumulate and persons will tend to experience what is called angina, or a type of chest pain.
You may get complete blockage of the vessel, which may now result in what is called a heart attack.
Heart tissues are not meant to function in an environment where the blood sugar level is elevated. And so, another incidence of diabetic cardiovascular complication results where high blood sugar levels in persons who are diabetic becomes directly toxic to heart cells. This impairs the ability of blood vessels to open normally under conditions of stress, such as exercise, and also causes inflammation and impaired clotting of the blood.
So if they are chronically exposed to those levels of elevated blood sugars, then there are biochemical consequences. There's weakness of the heart muscle, and patients, many of them go on to developing heart failure and so on.
The diagnosis of cardiovascular complications is more difficult in diabetics, where the symptoms appear unclear or may be different from the non-diabetic patient. Take, for example, a non-diabetic person with, say, coronary heart disease.
Generally, they will say, well, look, doc, I felt pressing pain to the center of my chest. It's moving down my left arm. It comes on with activity. It stops when I stop engaging in whatever activity. It feels like a weight or like a pressure, like a squeezing sensation, and it's associated with other things like shortness of breath and so on. Diabetics, however, have a particular problem because they have damage to the nerves, and therefore they may not actually experience chest pain at all. If they do, it may not be the typical angina which we would normally expect a patient to describe. Okay, so oftentimes diabetic patients who are having cardiovascular disease will say that, doc, I just feel a little funny sensation in my chest, a little discomfort, I just feel short of breath, or I'm walking up the stairs, or I'm running after my grandkids and I find that I'm just out of breath.
The rest of the diagnostic process, however, is similar and may include an echocardiogram (ECG), blood works, or various stress tests accessible at public health facilities and at the Heart Foundation of Jamaica. Generally, diabetic patients will have elevated blood sugars in their urine, which, if identified, serves as a red flag and need for more specific testing. A urinalysis or urine dipstick test is generally done as part of school medicals, oftentimes as a screening test for diabetes. As with every illness, early detection and prevention is key to having good health.
It would be good every year for every person to be checked. If you're diabetic, you would have been told how often you need to check your blood sugar by your health professional. But if you're just doing checks and you're healthy otherwise, then at least once a year to check your cholesterol, your sugar, your blood pressure, do your ECG to see if there is any abnormality in the heart.
The treatment of cardiovascular disease in diabetic patients is more holistic, involving lifestyle changes to include diet, exercise, and maintaining a healthy weight.
In a nutshell, we advocate for, eating primarily fruits and vegetables, things like whole grains and nuts, limiting one's intake of fast foods with high fat content, high cholesterol, salt, and so on, and portion size management as well.
More unprocessed foods, less of the very refined high sugar foods. So there are those foods that are obviously very high in sugar. So the typical recommendation, if you look at a plate, half of the plate should be more plant-based foods, leafy vegetables, and some fruit.
In general, 150 minutes minimum per week of moderate exercise such as swimming, brisk walking, jogging, or cycling is recommended. Besides the lifestyle changes, clinical treatment through prescription drugs and surgical procedures is an important element in caring for persons with cardiovascular complications of diabetes.
We have medications to address symptoms. We have medications to prolong life. And that forms an important part of the approach. There are a variety of procedures which diabetic patients and other non-diabetic patients may qualify for, or it may be necessary to pursue. So we speak of things like stenting, for example, coronary artery bypass grafting, which is, of course, open heart surgery, major surgery. Diabetic patients we have a lower threshold for referring diabetics for that kind of procedure just because of the severity of their disease.
Medications developed primarily for use by diabetic patients have been shown to have significant cardiovascular benefits as they reduce the risk of death and complications related to cardiovascular disease in diabetic patients. But with most of them still under patent, access is quite costly. Your best treatment option is to adopt healthy lifestyle practices that make you less prone to developing diabetes or cardiovascular disease.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
COVID-19 safeguards such as social distancing where people avoid closer personal contact with each other, is an effective way to curtail the spread of the coronavirus until persons are able to develop some level of immunity through vaccination or otherwise. Watch this next feature to learn more.
Apart, but still in it together. United, though not physically. Welcome to the period of social distancing, an important method to contain transmission of the novel coronavirus, COVID-19. Social distancing keeps people from interacting closely or frequently enough to spread an infectious disease. Social distancing involves minimizing contact with people and maintaining a distance of at least 1 meter or 3 feet between you and others. It also extends to avoiding public transportation as much as possible, limiting non-essential overseas travel, working from home, and skipping public gatherings.
For persons who are particularly sociable, really you should keep down the group meetings. I know it's difficult, but please. And at a time when persons are visiting or so, the hugging and the kissing, no. As much as possible, just cut that out until COVID is gone.
Locally, schools and other gathering places such as bars, nightclubs, and similar areas of entertainment have been ordered closed. A number of large events such as sporting activities have also been cancelled. Even if persons must gather, then the social distance rule of 1 meter must be adhered to. Also, no more than 10 persons are allowed to congregate within the same space at a time. Markets, supermarkets, corner shops, restaurants, and cook shops, which remain open, should at all times do so with a limited number of persons.
Gatherings in any place shall not exceed 10 persons. And this one has to be strictly enforced.
The Jamaica Urban Transit Company JUTC is also subjected to the policy and is permitted to carry seated passengers only. Likewise, taxi operators are required to carry 1 less passenger than they are licensed to. Social distancing is a tested and proven method to limit the spread of a virus. This strategy saved thousands of lives during both the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 and in Mexico City during the 2009 flu pandemic.
What we are trying to do is to institute the measures that we believe will inure to greater practice of social distancing, which is what is now being recommended as the most effective way of controlling the spread of COVID-19.
Please note, it is okay to go outdoors, particularly around your yard space if you do have one. Being close to the garden is especially recommended for seniors who may need to maintain exercise of the limbs. The point is not to remain indoors, but to avoid being in close contact with others. When you do leave your home, wipe down any surfaces you come in contact with, avoid touching your face, and frequently wash your hands. Here are some tips to help you maintain social distancing. When you go grocery shopping, buy as much as you can at a time to minimize the number of trips. In addition, select a time when the store is least likely to be crowded. Avoid dining out. You may opt for takeout or delivery service. If you must take public transport, do so during the off-peak hours and avoid taking vehicles that are full. At work, implement the remote work or staff rotation policy to decrease the number of persons within the same space at a time. Also consider virtual meetings.
In some places we've seen pictures where they're conducting a meeting and they have the chairs, they have the space marked out for the chairs, so they have a little square on the floor and they're separated.
Delay trips to crowded venues like the park or malls. The best mechanism to ward off COVID-19 and other contagious viruses is to stay home. If you must venture out, practice social distancing. In addition, take a hand sanitizer with you and use it after touching surfaces and door handles.
Some persons are not comfortable with hand sanitizer, so I'm here to tell you that the hand sanitizer is just as good as soap and water. If you can get hand sanitizer, make sure you check it to see the percentage of alcohol. It shouldn't be less than 60% alcohol. We recommend 70, but sometimes it's hard to find the 70%. So if you see the hand sanitizer and it has 60% alcohol, that can work. If you can't see the concentration of alcohol, do not buy that hand sanitizer.
What is the National Identification System? The new national ID will for the first time give Jamaicans one ID that is trusted and verifiable. This means easier access to government services like PATH and NIS. It will be easier to do business with the government and the private sector. Eventually, there'll be no need to walk with more than one ID. Support the new national ID. Get the facts at nidsfacts.com or on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at nidsfacts.
My great pleasure to welcome you to the third in a series of the Joint Select Committee virtual town hall meetings looking at the National Identification Registration Bill 2020. And again, I am indeed Kimberly McLeod, and I will be taking you through today's proceedings. And we begin with a question posed by Justine on Facebook. And Justine wants to know if the NIDS data will be stored in a single database, and I pose this question to the NIDS technical team.
In respect of that question, no. The NIDS data will not be stored in a single database. Under Clause 9 of the bill, it provides for the national databases, which will consist of the civil registration databases and the national identification databases. Under the civil registration databases, there will be multiple databases, such as, for example, birth databases, which will deal with matters specifically relating to births. There will be marriage databases, death databases, to give you some examples. Also, under the national identification databases, in which all identity information will be stored. Some of the databases under national identification will be biometric databases and fingerprints databases, to name a few.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Miller-Williams. And also on Facebook, we have George Stone McCalla, who wants to know, how will they, I assume the NIDS team and the government, protect our information from smart computers acting on their own?
Clause 23 provides for a framework for which the authority shall put in place security plan that ensures that enrolled individuals' identity information is accorded the highest level of security to protect the information from unauthorized access, unauthorized use, unauthorized disclosure, and loss. But what do we mean by this, and what is it that the government is doing? So the government is doing a number of things, and the first one that I want to bring to your attention is that all identity information will be encrypted. All sensitive information in the databases will be encrypted. Very important to know that. The government is also enhancing the cybersecurity infrastructure of all of the ministry, departments of government and agencies that are of national importance and national significance. And these are the entities that are involved with the implementation of the National Identification Program. The government is also establishing institutions for data protection and independent oversight of the proposed National Identification and Registration Authority to guarantee oversight and those mechanisms and safeguards. Very important to note that. The government is also strengthening, as part of the NIDS program, a significant investment in strengthening the networks and the security appliances at the various endpoints that will interact with the NIDS program.
Will it be issued free to all Jamaicans?
The National Identification Card will be issued free to all Jamaicans and also persons ordinarily resident in Jamaica who are enrolled in the system. Mm-hmm. So in terms of validity, period of validity, in relation to persons who are 18 years, who are younger than 18 years, it will be valid for a period of 5 years. So persons who are younger than 18, the card will be valid for 5 years. For persons who are 18 and older, but younger than 60, it will be valid for 10 years. And persons who are 60 years and older, the card will be valid for 15 years.
Would it be possible for you to explain what is the rationale behind the periods of validity for the national identification card?
When you look at minors, between from birth all the way to 18, your features tend to change quite often. And we're using the benchmark that the passport office is using, so we renew, using that as a standard to renew every 5 years. When you're above 18 all the way to 60, I mean, your features tend to change over a 10-year period, and research has shown that. And for persons above 60, their features tend not to change. They have more like a 15-year period, and that is why we would have used those as the benchmark.
I'm going to move on now to Krista Z on YouTube, who's asking, when someone accesses the information of another person, can other people in the system see it and see how long they were on the records?
Under Clause 24 of the bill, identity information can only be verified with the request of the identity owner. It's important to note that the identity owner must be notified based on the design of the solution, also in the framework that we're looking at, and must be notified every time a disclosure or verification is done.
The new NIDS bill has been drafted and is ready for review. We want to hear from you. Go to www.japarliament.gov.jm to download a copy of the new bill. Join the conversation. Make a written submission to Clerk to the Houses, Gordon House, 81 Duke Street, Kingston, or via email clark@japarliament.gov.jm.
We have extended the time to the 15th of February.
Join the process. Let your voice be heard.
What do you need to know about masks for your children? You want to ensure that the mask fits your child snugly, as in it covers their nose, their mouth, and it fits neatly at the side of their face, no gaps. You want to get your children some washable, breathable mask made of fabric. You want to ensure that they carry an extra mask with them, because once that mask gets dirty or wet, they will need to change the mask. When they get home, you want to ensure that those masks are washed and ready for the next day or the other day to come. Also, remind them that they need to wash their hands when they're putting on the mask and when they're taking off the mask. And as much as possible, they should avoid putting their hands at the center of their mask. If it is that they have to make any adjustment to their mask during the day, it's important that they either wash their hands or use their hand sanitizer. Mask wearing is a new normal. Let's get it right.
We are moving into Reggae Month, and amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, the celebration of our great homegrown musical genre will be staged virtually. So draw for your dancing shoes and come rock to the rhythms with the top reggae performing artists.
By custom, we would be sending out invitations to the world to join us in Jamaica for Reggae Month in February. However, amid the throes of a global pandemic, we ask you to join our virtual celebration of Reggae Month this year.
Everything what we are do, what we, I'm bravo. What you know now, see it now. Come here now, make it a one. Make it show that move like a jacker man. Boy. Reggae month, 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 Christoph, reggae month, Disha, reggae month, Bravo, reggae month.
As we build the Reggae Month brand, we are working to realize an even stronger collaboration as we strive to make good on the opportunities afforded us by the virtual platforms to expand partnerships for mutual benefits. Together, we can better position reggae music Jamaica's most penetrating global export for enhanced contribution to the national economy.
Fight each other, what we need, solidarity, 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 solidarity. Hey, yeah. Wonderful world, beautiful people, you and your girl, things could be pretty, but underneath this, there is a secret that nobody can reveal.
We want Reggae Month 2021 to signal the start of a process of building back stronger towards an even brighter and more dynamic future.
Got to move, I'm going on a party ride. I've got to groove, 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 and from this music I just can't hide. Are you coming with me? Come, let me take you on a party ride. And I'll teach you, teach you, teach you. I'll teach you the electric slide. Some say it's mystic, it's electric. Woogie, woogie, woogie. And you can't resist it. It's electric. Woogie, woogie, woogie. You can't do without it. It's electric. Woogie, woogie, woogie. Take a miss a mom, she's a chicken feeding jar, she's a moving along like she's so good. You don't want to lose.
Reggae music means everything to me. It means the world to me.
For reggae is the heartbeat of a people.
Reggae help people to know more about themselves.
Reggae is global. Reggae is everywhere.
Yeah, reggae is my life, you know. I put to reggae, man, I walk out saying dead or something.
We have something which the world crave even right now.
It is now my pleasure to declare Reggae Month 2021 officially launched. One love.
Come catch the rhythm like no place else on earth, only in Jamaica.
And that's how I made to give him the glory. I'm delighted. Jah knows I'm a passion ignited. Party music get me excited.
If you love reggae music, come on in, everybody say I
We are at the end of today's journey. You've been great company. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for another show. Until then, continue to watch these and other programs by logging on to our website, jis.gov.jm, or subscribing to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on all the major social media platforms and through our mobile app that's Android and iOS compatible. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Until next time, do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.